All right. Good morning and welcome to kind of an experiment, I guess. Here with a really good friend of mine. We're gonna do a weekly show every Wednesday at 8 a.m. And without further ado, I'm just gonna bring him on because I think it's a lot more entertaining than sitting here listening to me talk. There he is. Morning, Jim. Welcome. Thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, for those perhaps not familiar, you and I have known each other for a number of years. I think it was like 7th grade, right?
Yeah, it sounds accurate.
Yeah, Barker, good old Barker Middle School, back when it was Barker Junior High. So, you just got off work.
Yeah. So I'm looking and feeling my best.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's I thought this would be a good thing to do because a couple of reasons. Number one, I find that as we've found out on numerous occasions, we don't always agree, but we always have a civil discussion about things.
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah. I mean, basically, opinion rarely resorts to, silly behavior. Be like, you're an idiot. But as far as...
Yeah, the name calling's all in good fun.
Precisely. And that comes from, knowing each other for the decades time that we have. Yeah, decades. So one of the things that I'd like to do, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how, is to cover like interesting things, right? Interesting stories.
Okay.
And one in particular that I had seen that I think you might be interested in. Let me find it. But in the meantime,
I'm going in here blind.
Yeah. I really didn't. Here's the thing: we didn't really set any parameters because I think just a healthy, good discussion is speaking of. When you got here, you showed me an email you got.
Yeah.
So you got an email. Do you want to like break it down?
So do we need to do back? Well, I feel like we need to do backstory if we're going to talk about the email in question.
Yeah. Good.
Then we should definitely talk about backstory. So, I am a member of the Patriotic Few Motorcycle Club, which is a 3% motorcycle club. 3% evokes very frightening images about lunatics in the woods with camo paint and doing drills for the big insurrection. Oh, can I even say that word?
You can say, you can say whatever you want.
I don't want any buzzwords. You know
what? Here's the way I look at it. Right. So I'm shadow banned on YouTube as it is. I went from thousands to thousands.
I'm not
views.
Surprised by it. I just find it humorous.
Yeah, I went from thousands and thousands of views on YouTube to a handful.
Yeah,
but Rumble, I do much better. Right. X, I do much better.
Right. So
I don't care is the short version. Say what's on your mind.
Yeah. Now that we're off that tangent there. So, Patriotic Few Motorcycle Club. We're a 3% motorcycle club. We do a lot of work with veterans causes.
Mm-hmm.
We raise money for homeless vets. We're very involved in, veterans causes. We feel like these are people that need more than just the arbitrary "thank you for your service."
Right.
Because there was some comedian who said it's easier to worship our soldiers than to help them.
I like that.
Yeah, that one kind of hit me.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. We ride motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
We believe in the Constitution. We believe in the Second Amendment. We believe in holding politicians accountable for representing us.
Right.
And that's about as far as I'm going to go on that.
Right.
Right. We can deep dive into the organization.
Yeah. Which I'd love to, by the way, because I think, and this is something I want the viewers to understand. I am not a member of the club. What I am is a supporter of the club. I believe in it very, very strongly. And the only reason I'm not a member is because I can't devote the time to it that it deserves.
Right.
So
I will say this much. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
So we're legit as a charity.
Yes. And you guys have done some wonderful things for veterans. Specifically, you guys' biggest recipient is the home in South Bend. Right?
Yeah, Miller's Homeless Vets.
Miller's Homeless Vets. Yeah.
We do stuff for them every year. As a matter of fact, shameless plug. We're having a ride in May to raise money for Miller's Homeless Vets.
Yep.
If you want to look into it some more, you can find us on Facebook, Patriotic View MC Northern.
Because it's actually a national organization.
It is a national organization. We have several chapters, but like I said, we'll deep dive into that at another point.
But but that background is important to understand the next part.
That background is important to understand the email in question. So I received an email through our organization's website from a freelance journalist.
Right.
Who's done several works with Vice and now this and other outlets like that.
Right. Which should tell you most of what you need to know.
Regardless of how you feel about that, that's, the facts. That's the observation.
Right. That's the basis of the.
So basically, it was a request to meet in person to discuss the rise of civilian 3% movements.
Right. Right.
And whatever that all entails. And I'm not really sure how I, as a representative of my organization, wants to proceed with that.
Right.
You brought up a very valuable point. It's real easy to complain about not getting both sides of the story.
Right.
But if you don't put your side of the story out there, how are they going to know?
Right. At the same time.
On the other hand.
On the other hand.
Editing can be very tricky. Sound bites can be very tricky. Context can be very tricky.
Right.
We're not even going to go into, the help of AI.
Right. It's a fair point nowadays.
It is. It's a genuine concern.
Yeah.
So I'll keep you up to date on that as details unfold. I suppose it's at least worth a response. Yeah.
Yeah. I had, when I ran for office, I had someone from Vice News reach out. Well, actually, there were two separate occasions. The first time someone had reached out to me, it was basically, hey, we're doing a thing. It's when I was running for office, and we'd like to interview you. And my response was, I think, pretty reasonable. And it was, unfortunately, based on what I've looked up that you've been a part of, it seems to be very slanted. How can I be sure that you're going to represent what I say accurately? I didn't receive a response to that one.
Which could be a response in itself.
Exactly. And then I was actually reached out to by Vice News and did a full-on interview, and they did a documentary, and I wasn't in it at all. Not a single second, in my opinion, because it didn't fit the narrative. I was, I was calm and rational and presented, factual information, and that didn't fit what they were looking for.
Which may have just been cut for time. Who knows?
And that's another possibility. It is completely possible that I just wasn't that interesting.
Because let's be realistic about journalism nowadays. Okay, journalism, like many other things in this world, it's a business.
Precisely.
Businesses are in it to make money. And some things make money, some things don't.
Right.
interesting and shocking things make money. Uninteresting, mundane things don't make money.
Don't make money. Yeah. And you know what? That's actually a really good point, because the person who reached out, like you said, Vice News, and now this, Vice News went under. They went from I think it was like at least $1.5 billion company, more than that possibly, to now being sold in a fire sale and firing everybody. Like,
yeah, I wasn't really sure what happened to Vice. It just, they went away one day.
yeah, let's see.
Put on the glasses, old man.
Yeah, I gotta put my glasses on so I can actually. Yeah, so this was. This is it right here. Vice was valued at $5.7 billion in 2017. And there was a court hearing June 22nd, 2023. Fortress is winning $225 million bid. So they were sold off for less than $250 million after being valued at almost $6 billion just a few years earlier.
That's quite the loss of zeros.
That's a massive, massive loss. And one thing that I noticed personally is Vice always had a very, I won't say gotcha, but put it this way, they knew how to exploit the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
They had that catchy kind of journalism.
Right.
And I will say I've seen a couple of things from Vice that I personally found objective. There aren't many, but they exist. And that was why I agreed to sit down with them. Yeah, man, kicking my camera around.
I'll kick it again.
So, on the one hand, how can we expect to be represented fairly if no one's willing to sit down and have that conversation? On the other hand, why should we sit down and have that conversation when we know we're going to be deceptively edited or sound bites used or stuff like that?
Well, and as a society, we've kind of gotten a very short attention span.
Very true.
In-depth discussions, I mean, they happen.
They do,
but
they're rare nowadays.
Well, but there's a lot of talking, but nothing's really being said.
Yeah, that's true too.
So, I mean, it's just my opinion.
Well, that kind of goes to the crux though, because we are turning into. I saw it somewhere and it was very catchy. It was like a 5-minute society or something, where basically if a video is over 5 minutes, people will pass it by, even if it has all the information that they want in the video.
Right.
Oh, it's like 5 minutes, 15, like 5 minutes was the breaking point. Like if it's 5:02, they won't watch it. But if it's 4:58,
you've got about less than a minute to grab somebody.
Right. Yeah, you have to grab that attention, and it's like the days of those long radio programs or the long hour interviews with people are just not that popular anymore. People,
not unless they're, how do I want to put this? If you've got two people that are legitimately verbally fighting with each other, then people are gonna perk their ears up.
Right. Yeah. Then they're like, ooh, conflict.
You pretty much got two options at this point. The way I see it is, you either need to talk about something that everybody gets behind, or you need to have drama. Yeah. And it's a sad reality. That's like, do you remember? Obviously you do, but viewers, listeners, you guys remember in the 90s with the advent of the internet and the dial-up modems, and if you wanted to download a small JPEG,
it took you like 30 minutes
Mhm.
to download a very basic picture on the internet. Like,
Mhm.
your Sarah Michelle Gellar collection. I'm sure I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm sure that took ages to. No, you
Nothing against Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Right. But that wasn't your heartthrob.
No, she was not.
Right. No, but downloading anything
Mhm.
of any substance took forever. I remember when I had, and this was a little later. It just so happened that I could only get very shitty internet where I lived, and so I got dial up in the age of DSL and all these other cable mode. Yeah, and dial up was the only thing that was available because I lived in a rural area. And oh my goodness, man, trying to update. I played like EVE Online and EverQuest and all that, trying to update in
Nerd
days. Like days it took to download.
It's like trying to download updates on PlayStation.
Yeah, no kidding. What the hell? Why is this taking so long? I have godly internet. But nowadays, I think I read that if a web page takes longer than like 2 seconds to load, people are gone.
Mm-hmm.
They're nope. Next.
Yeah, which is interesting because we're older.
Yeah. Ancient.
Yeah. We were in the before times.
Right.
Before any of this was even a thing.
Yeah. But
now
the internet exists.
Yeah. Now we have like little computers in our pockets.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the world of information at our fingertips. We can send messages to people across the world in seconds.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's
absolutely amazing. And it's not good enough.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it's just not good enough anymore. We've become so spoiled.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm guilty of it too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're not trying to single anybody out because we do it too, man. I sit there and go to like, open my freaking X or whatever, and it's being slow. I'm like, this stupid boom.
Mm-hmm.
To quote, what's his name? Louis C.K., it's got to go to space. Be patient.
Yeah. Like we have so much at our fingertips now.
Yeah.
Which that's going to get me into a whole nother tangent right there. Yeah, I have opinions.
And you know what? That's kind of the point is there are too many people who are afraid to say what's really on their mind now. And I won't say justifiably so, but at least understandably so, because that
was my phone.
Yeah, that was your phone rattling against or vibrating on the table, but it was an interesting sound, put it that way. I thought for a minute maybe we had a really fat hornet that got trapped by the little Lego flowers.
It's something to keep me awake.
Right, there you go. But we have such a hurry up and wait type of society now. Everything is super fast with the advent of all these new technologies and all this new stuff. But people are so afraid of saying what's on their mind because of quote cancel culture or the online vitriol and hatred. Mm-hmm. The coming out of the woodworks.
Yeah, the trolls and the keyboard warriors and all the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's actually a court case where they.
Of course there is.
Well, it's about the whole First Amendment thing regarding people running for office and being able to block trolls and people on their accounts, right? It's not completely finished yet, but basically the opinion was rendered by the judges that decided this, that if you're on your official campaign account, right, and you have a separate personal account, your personal account, you can do whatever you want with. You can block anybody. You can do whatever you want, right? Mm-hmm. But if this account is the only way that you're communicating and you're presenting, like, I guess, public information on it, you can't block people You can't block constituents on an official like representative account, right?
Right, but where's the line on that?
It's a good question.
Where is the line on that? Because let's be honest. Trolls are trolls. You know,
Right.
They're not contributing anything. They're not raising legitimate questions. They're trolling.
They're just trolling, right?
You know, they're sitting under their little virtual bridge.
Uh-huh.
So,
watch, Mom.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm trying to keep it classy here, and you're being silly.
That's what I do, man.
I mean,
I just threw you completely.
Yeah, you did. You just yeah.
Right,
I have to reset now.
Right?
Let's have some coffee.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, where's the line?
Yeah, where's the line? And just not to stick up for public figures, politicians, or anything else,
Right.
but right is right and wrong is wrong.
Okay.
So, you know, on the one hand, well, you're a public figure. You're public.
Yeah.
You know, you forego a certain right to privacy.
Agree.
Because you're out there.
Yep.
Does that mean you have to take every sling and arrow that comes from every chucklehead who can type 15 words a minute?
That's a really good question.
Well, the answer is real simple. No.
No.
Just like, regardless, you know, people want to talk about hate speech and this and that and the other until it's them doing it.
Yeah.
And then, I have a First Amendment right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the funny thing about the First Amendment, you don't get to pick and choose.
Right.
First of
all in.
It's
an all-in situation.
It's either good for everybody or it's good for nobody.
Right.
And it's good for everybody.
And that's something I wholeheartedly believe in, is the ability for anyone to say whatever's on their mind. Because, like, the best way to understand, like, the motives and where people really stand is by just letting them talk. And
and the beautiful thing about, like, just for example, Facebook, you know, Twitter, whatever,
various social medias,
tippity tap, tippity tap, tippity tap. Comments show up on the screen. You don't like a comment? Keep scrolling, bud.
Keep moving. Exactly.
People take the most impersonal form of communication so personal.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
And I've almost caught myself in that. The worst thing in the world, well, what I thought was the worst thing in the world was reading the comment section of Facebook.
Okay.
That was until I got on Reddit.
Oh, my God, dude.
Reddit makes Facebook look downright civil.
It does. You know why? Like, there's lots of reasons, but, this could be a whole other thing. But the super short version is basically Reddit got completely taken over by the trolls. It was completely hijacked from what it was designed for and turned into.
I kicked your camera again.
I know, man. What the hell?
I got long legs. I
know. It's just the way that it's set up. I'm still working on options. But I think this works out pretty darn well. Yeah, it's imperfect, but it works. But the trolls took it over. And unfortunately, we have there's a reason there's a stereotype of Reddit mods, you know? So it just got completely hijacked by people who only believe in the First Amendment when it applies to them. Going back to what you said.
I think you had it right in the first place, was the Reddit mob.
Yes.
Because that is definitely some mob rule there.
It really is. And it's like, man, I can't even I'll because it's rarer, but there are still some quality pieces of information available on Reddit.
Yeah. Well, it's just like anything else. There's quality pieces of information all over the place.
Right.
You just gotta dig through all the muck to get to it. Yeah.
So let's see here. So, I got a question, which is, what is the thing you are most proud of that your club has done for the community or veterans?
Like I said, Miller's Homeless Vets is kind of our big project. It's very near and dear to us. We just this past holiday season, we made them gift baskets with essentials that they need every day: toiletries, socks, blankets, pillows, and we cooked them a large meal. I mean, we cooked it ourselves. We brought it in, we laid it all out, and it was a spread.
Nice.
Let me tell you. I mean, not trying to toot our own horns or anything.
No, but here's the thing: as a relative outsider, I was shocked at like how well you guys did. Seriously, it was a lot. I mean, you guys did a lot. There were lots of donations that came in. There were lots of people that were involved, both in the club and outside the club.
Oh yeah.
That were all involved in doing this.
Absolutely.
And
just an inconsequential side note, we don't keep any of that money. It's not like anybody's getting a salary for this. Yeah. Like, we pay money.
Yeah, it costs you guys money
to do stuff like this. Yeah. So like nobody's earning a dime off of this.
It's not one of those nonprofits where the CEO gets 180 grand a year, and then the second person gets 175 grand a year, and then there's no salaries.
There's none of that.
Right.
But anyway, back to the point. We did that holiday dinner, and we spent. It wasn't like some of the things you would imagine, where the charity goes in, they drop off a check or whatever. The token, gesture.
Yeah,
have a photo op, and then see you later. Good luck.
Right.
We were there for I don't know. I want to say like 3 or 4 hours just talking to those guys, and that more than the baskets or the food,
right?
Which they appreciate all of that.
Absolutely.
But moreover, just spending time with them, listening to their stories, just letting them know that somebody cares, somebody notices them.
Yeah.
Is just, I can't even describe it.
Right.
And it's opened up more opportunities going there, because those guys, they get back up on their feet, they get jobs, they get their own places. One of the gentlemen there got a job, needed help getting a car, getting back and forth to work. And needed a little money for his deposit.
Okay.
To get into his housing. His housing was approved. He just needed a deposit to get in.
Okay.
Okay. How much you need?
Yeah.
We don't have, unlimited resources, obviously.
Of course.
But, guy needed a couple $100 to get into his new place.
And what's really wild is many times that's the difference between success and failure. That just a few $100, like for a deposit, or for hell, dude, you remember when we were young, like we'd get lined up with a job and an apartment and all of that stuff, and then the starter would go out. Haven't got our first paycheck yet. It happens.
It does.
It's really, really quite interesting how in what used to be the richest country in the world, there's such a razor thin margin between success and failure. Such a razor thin margin between survival and not.
Right. Well, survival's kind of taken on a new form. But I don't want to get into that right now.
Yeah. But
stick to the topic at hand. But that's our most near and dear project. It's something I'm very proud of personally. And it's something that we as an organization are proud of. That being said, we're always looking for new opportunities to help.
Okay.
I've been trying to look at something. Our chapter is based out of South Bend.
That's Indiana for you guys. Russia.
So I've been looking for something, LaPorte, Porter County, something a little further west.
Yeah.
In Indiana. Still looking.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the interesting things that I found is there are actually not many dedicated organizations in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you go to Chicago, right? There's Chicago and then there's the home in South Bend, but that's kind of it, really, right?
And well,
that
I found.
Yeah.
Because, if there are more, they're really flying under the radar.
Right.
It's not as simple as a quick Google search and, you can find, Wounded Warrior and Mission 22. All good causes.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking any of those. Get Wet for a Vet, which we do some work with.
Okay.
We have a bit of a relationship, as it were.
Yeah.
Because our goals align.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but you guys do a lot, and there's and this isn't something that like we'll get into today, but I'd love to kind of, as much as you're able, kind of talk about the misconceptions of the biker world. When you see someone with long hair and a beard, there are obviously, and the stories abound, where what's assumed to be big gur type guys,
right?
And
that's just like anything else, there's you'll see that, but there's a lot of things that you're so scope locked on the perception of that, because once again, that sells,
right,
that you're missing all the charity work.
Yep.
You're missing all the things that you don't see because you're not looking, because big scary man with a beard and long hair.
Right. Cruising on his Harley with a loud ass exhaust, disturbing the neighbors.
There's a lot of charity that goes on. There's a lot of family values that go on. I mean, I could go on and on about that. At the end of the day, what you got to understand is, just like any other group, any other club, any other whatever, these are just people. They have families. They have jobs.
Right.
They have hopes. They have dreams. They have things they're afraid of.
Right.
They have things that make them upset. They have things that make them happy.
And there's a lot of stereotyping out there. There's, and let's face it, Hollywood is, has certainly added to that. I mean, you got, Sons of Anarchy and all these other types of things that have shown a certain thing while not touching on, like you said, all the charity work that happens, all the things that Guardian Riders, for example, it's very positive overall organization that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could go on and on and
there's
on.
Tons of them. There's no shortage. But there are, I think there are lots of people.
There's bad apples in every bushel.
Absolutely. And there are people that maybe want to help and want to get involved with various things. But for example, before I got involved with you and, by extension, your club, I had a certain conception and a certain, idea of the way things were. And I'm like, man, that sounds cool, but I don't know if I fit in. Dude, these guys are like the most accepting people I've ever met in my life. They don't care at all. Like, how you are, what you are. As long as you're not disrespectful. And if you're a douche, that's,
And that's the thing. That's the one thing that's kind of like the common denominator in the motorcycle community is respect.
Right.
You give respect, you get respect.
Right.
It goes both ways. It's about freedom.
Right.
The freedom to be who you are, the freedom for me to be who I am.
Right. And I think a lot of people get hung up on, the look, the stereotypes, the this, the that. But I think that's probably the best individual word I think that people can keep in mind when they're dealing
Well,
with that is respect.
let me kind of do a hot take real quick, talking about the perceived.
Mhm.
Okay, let's look at a completely different group of people. Okay, let's look at, like, at the risk of the hot take.
Yeah.
The LBGT plus ampersand asterisk whatever it is now.
Yeah, the alphabet community.
Right. They have a certain style. They have certain mannerisms. They have but not all of them. It's a very diverse group.
It is.
And they're perceived a certain way, good, bad, or otherwise.
Right.
As far as the perceptions, every group is going to have a certain perception.
Yeah. Yeah. And in some cases, warranted. In some cases, not.
Right.
And there's a reason that certain stereotypes exist.
At the end of the day, you should base your perception, your attitude towards the person you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Not, this person's a biker. This person's a this person's a that. Deal with each person is a person,
is an individual, right?
And like, there's no cookie cutter. Anybody who's like, oh yeah, these are all this, these are all that, these are all this. If that's true, at least some of them are playing a role.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's diversity. Every group has diversity.
Right.
But we've taken that word and distorted it into. I'm getting off again.
No, but it's true, right? So what used to be celebrated, right? Diversity. And now, like you say, it has a certain connotation to it because of the abuse it's received from various groups and organizations that have used something as simple and as positive as, because in its core, diversity is a good thing. That's what built this country.
Right.
Legal immigrants that came here. And it's one reason the USA is the powerhouse, or at least was the powerhouse that it grew to become, is because of all the different skills and backgrounds that kind of came together to create the greatest country on earth. And they've taken that as a positive thing and forced it down your throat to represent something else, which isn't diversity. It's acceptance. It's celebration. Acceptance is okay. Celebration of something I don't agree with is not.
Well, I mean,
forced celebration.
Forced. If you put forced in front of anything, it instantly becomes bad.
Right. Because you take the choice out of it.
Right. And that's what our country was founded on, was choice.
Right.
We chose to have our own country. We chose to do things the way that we did. But now they're limiting those choices. And the choices become more and more limited. We talk about things like diversity and inclusion, and as a straight white male, I have never been so excluded.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. Interesting take there. And it's something that I think a lot of people have kind of just let, I won't say fly under the radar, but I don't believe that we have, by we, I mean straight white males in general, cis whatever the whole thing is, right? Straight white male.
I don't have the decoder wheel. I don't know.
Right. We've kind of allowed it to happen to a degree.
Well, and to be completely fair, I'm going to play both sides of the fence for a second. History has shown that, we weren't the best people, putting it mildly.
But who's like, here's
but at the same time, I'd like to believe we're trying to get better for the most part. there's always people who don't.
Yeah.
And going to the other extreme doesn't help anybody.
Right. Right.
I mean, in the long term, yeah, in the short term, people feel better, but then what?
Then what? Exactly.
Well,
you have a country that has become so, it's lost its way so much that we're removing the national flag from places because it offends people who aren't even legally here.
I don't even want to get into that. That's
I know that opens up a whole other thing. But my point in even saying that is, for a country that was founded on the belief that you should be able to essentially do what you want as long as you don't hurt anybody else.
right.
Because that's kind of the foundation and the reason that we have 50 states with different laws and all of this. We've gotten to a place where we are so concerned about others' feelings that we can't even display national pride, because then you're labeled as this or you're labeled as that.
Right. Well, I can't help but feel like at some point the division, without getting too into conspiracies, is by design.
Oh, it's, absolutely. I mean,
Partially by design, and partially because I think nowadays, relatively speaking, we have too much time on our hands.
Yeah, because everything's instant.
Yeah, everything's instant. Everything is comparatively easy.
Right. I think that's a very, very salient point that people kind of don't think about, right? Everything's become so easy now. And I'm not talking about like surviving day to day and living paycheck to paycheck. That's still hard. That still sucks.
Right. There's still struggles. The struggles are just different now.
They're different. Exactly. They're different. And in many cases, like, we used to have to, just as a for example, right? And I don't want to wax, back in my day.
You don't want to get all Gen X.
Get all Gen Xer. But like, in order to research something, we would have to go to the library, go to the research section. You couldn't even take that stuff home. You'd have to sit there and like do your for whatever, your book report, your this, your that.
If you had 50 cents, you might get a couple photocopies.
Exactly. Yeah. To run some photocopies. But now, like, from the comfort of your living room, you can check the library in Shanghai or the Smithsonian or, whatever. You can look all that stuff up from, 57 BC. It's all right there, is the point. And there's no barrier anymore. There's no like, because you had to have a certain amount, you had to learn like the library system, the Dewey Decimal System.
The Dewey Decimal System, yeah.
Yeah, you had to learn that in order to navigate your way through the little card catalog. And, everything's digital now. It's all, show me this, and poof, there it is. So the barrier of entry is so non-existent. It's and there's a reason now why when they have these interviews with college and high school students and they can't do basic math or
you don't have to do any of that.
Right.
It's all, it's like and I hate quoting Albert Einstein, but he said you don't have to know everything, you just have to know where to find it.
Right.
And it's never been easier to find too much information. I mean, it's everywhere. Some of it's accurate, some of it isn't.
Right. And that's a good point, I think, to get into another time is especially when you're going to pretend to be an authority on something, right? When you're going to stake a claim or make a stand on something, you want to be sure that your information is correct.
Right.
And nowadays, like, especially with the shadow banning and the this and the that, it's so hard to find accurate information
Mm-hmm.
without one side being presented as the exclusive arbiter of truth.
Right.
Right. Certain, you go to like YouTube or Google, they're going to present one side.
Mm-hmm.
You go like True Social or Twitter nowadays, X, you're going to see the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I will say Twitter's it's got its ups and downs. It's far from perfect.
You really want to go there?
I just want to say real quick, I'm not happy with X/Twitter currently. I think there are still some issues that need to be resolved.
Mm-hmm.
But it's getting closer.
Nothing's ever going to be perfect.
Right. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. But there used to be, like, when we were young, at least my grandparents, they would watch CNN and be pretty damn sure that what they saw was factual.
Mm-hmm.
Right? New York Times. They read it. Yeah, pretty sure that what I'm reading is factual.
Mm-hmm.
Now you just never freaking know.
Yeah. We still believed in unbiased journalism back then.
Yeah.
Or at least we had the illusion of it.
The illusion of it. Right. And I think it's been that way for a lot longer than people are willing to admit.
Mm-hmm.
Diving into, not to dive into conspiracy theories or any of that stuff, but Operation Mockingbird is very, very real. It existed/exists. They deny its existence now, but since when does the CIA tell the truth? It was documented as a thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And to think that they just don't do that anymore is a little naive.
Mm-hmm.
So going back, I think they claim they did away with it in like the 70s, for example. So, it predates that. So what, the 50s? How far back does it go? We don't know, because they're not gonna, they're not gonna tell the truth. It's like the whole assassination of JFK. The Warren Commission was headed up by the very same people who wanted to cover what really happened. So we're not going to get the truth, which is why, those people that say, well, the government said, stop you right there.
Right.
We've investigated ourselves and found we did nothing wrong. Come on.
Yeah. Who watches The Watchmen?
Precisely. And
you can just as an example, because you're old enough to remember it.
Mm-hmm.
The photograph, we used to see it everywhere. The guy holding up the paper, it says Dewey beats Truman.
Yeah. I think we saw a resurgence of that in 2016 because I think it was Newsweek, had printed the Madam President thing for Hillary, right? Mm-hmm. Assuming Hillary won.
Right.
And before, what people needed to understand then is it was common practice for newspapers and other magazine publishers to have two versions.
Mm-hmm.
One if this happens, one if that happens, right? But they didn't do a second version. Mm-hmm. They didn't have one ready for if Trump won.
Right.
And that was the big,
But that's a pretty poor excuse in today's age.
Right.
Where you're just a few clicks away making it completely different.
Right.
You just wanted to throw you just wanted to throw that out there.
Right. I did.
You just they just wanted to throw that out there. They just wanted
to throw it out there because it was,
whether or not it was true.
Yeah.
It was shocking.
Right. And
they can always take it back later.
Yeah. And I think that's an important point. There is a huge push, and it in my opinion is the reason that legacy media is dying. I don't know if you've seen the latest on how down all these news organizations are.
Well, that's part of it. I think another reason legacy media is dying is because, every so-called freelance journalist with a keyboard and some free time can just throw out, their news into the ether.
Right.
And it's getting there first.
Yep.
I'm not the first person to say that.
No, but it's well known that, first trumps accurate, unfortunately, for these legacy media, especially, because for so long, get it out there. Being first was important.
Well, they have to compete with.
Yeah. Well, now especially, but even when they had kind of the monopoly and there was just the beginnings of the citizen journalist, you would get these massive, front page headlines of something shocking. And then, of course, a day or two later, once it was discovered to be, bull.
Or once you get into the meat of the article.
Or once the headline was blah, blah, blah. But then when you get down into the meat of it.
Then we get to the clickbait.
Right. Clickbait's been a huge problem for a while. But it actually ties into the instant gratification.
Just so you know, local myths don't want to talk to you.
Right. Just in case, local mills are not interested in you. There's an ongoing problem with legacy media versus accuracy versus being first. And it's very easy to fall into that. Ooh, I got to share this. With no regard for whether it's accurate or whether the headline matches what's actually in the article, which is something you mentioned. And now, unfortunately, because these legacy media places are struggling, their websites now, like when you try to click on an article, it's just spam ads, and then they're like, well, you can't watch it if you have, you can't view this if you're using ad blocker. Well, if you weren't trying to swarm my screen with 400 ads, I wouldn't use it.
And that's if you can even get to it. Like, New York Times is a real bad one for, you see the shocking headline, and then you click on it and you'll get to see the article for 3 seconds. And then, if you want to read this, you'll have to subscribe. Which, again, it's a business. Right. It's about making money. But where do we draw the line on that?
Well, sure.
Well, let's go on that little tangent. So, Amazon Prime.
Oh God. Oh man, I don't know if we got time for this. Go ahead.
So Amazon Prime, commercials now. Now I'm paying for commercials.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want the commercials. I got to pay more money.
Right. Who started that? I think Hulu. Right. Yeah. So Hulu had.
We'll go back even farther than that.
Okay.
Because I remember. I remember a time when
cable didn't have commercials.
Yeah, I was the first cat on my block to have cable.
Yeah.
Date myself there.
Right.
And that was the draw of cable, is you could watch programs without commercials.
They were clear. There was no, the static, because you had just regular antenna. There's none of this digital.
Yeah, it was sent through a coaxial cable. Right. It was always clear. You never had to worry about reception. You never had to worry about commercials. Granted, there were only 5 channels.
Yeah,
and they usually always played the same 10 shows. But damn it, you never saw a commercial.
Right? And
then cable started putting commercials in. Now cable puts commercials in everything.
Yeah. Now you and this is a perfect example, right? Going back to Amazon Prime. Prior to that, we had signed up for Hulu, right? Because there were certain shows on Hulu that was the only place we could watch them, or that's what we wanted to watch. So we signed up for Hulu, and there was several different options that you could sign up for. One of them was like the premium package with no commercials. So you signed up for that, and then you go to watch your show, and it's like, oh, this is only available with Hulu Live. Well, what the hell? Yeah. Okay. What is it? Okay, fine. Okay.
Why doesn't Live come with the premium package?
Right, because you think that's what you're getting. So you're like, all right, fine. I'm going to pay for the Live. And then I'm watching it, and here's a damn commercial. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, what the? So I look, and
Yeah.
it's like
live doesn't count.
Right. Yeah, you'll get live, but it has commercials because it's live TV. But then when you actually like look into it, they wanted like $89 for no commercials.
Mhm.
For what I wanted to watch with no commercials, like $90. I'm like, why in the hell would I pay $90 for something that I still and here was the big problem, wasn't even the cost, was the fact that they're like, well, some live programs are still going to contain commercials.
Well,
Then what the fuck am I paying for?
even if you don't, somebody will.
Right. And I'm like,
Even if you still only want to pay the $29.99 a month,
$17.99 for the basic,
Mhm.
whatever it is now. Yeah, and paying for commercials, pay for no commercials and still get commercials. Like
yeah, and it's
Absolutely.
funny. And it's funny. I should thank Amazon Prime for making me decide to keep my Netflix subscription.
Okay.
Because they seem to be the only platform now that doesn't have commercials.
Right. I
was real mad about Netflix. Oh, we're upping our rates.
Yep.
We're upping our rates.
Uh-huh.
We're upping our rates. And I kept saying, when it gets to this point, I'm canceling it.
Mhm.
When it gets to this point, I'm canceling it. And right when I'm hovering over the unsubscribe button, and then Amazon Prime pulls their little trick, and I went, you know what? I'm gonna keep Netflix.
Yeah, I think I'll hang on to it for a little bit longer. Yeah.
So I don't have to wait for a minute and a half of commercials in the middle of my movie.
Right. Yeah. Like, what the heck, man? So one of the things that I noticed on Prime is when you go to watch, like I watch CSI, right, on Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to watch it, they won't do the commercial in the middle. You'll have like a 45-second commercial at the beginning for usually something else on Amazon Prime, right?
Not always, but
usually it's like another show or something. The vast majority of which I have zero interest in.
Yeah.
Like, are not even remotely connected to what I'm watching. Don't care. But I can, as much as I'm like, why am I paying for this?
Mm-hmm.
45 seconds before it starts.
It starts briefly.
But that's how it starts.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
By the time you get to about the middle, you're in 2.5 minutes of the same commercial.
Yes.
That you saw half an hour ago.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that, I'm like, nah. Why? Like, it's crazy, man. That's in streaming wars, right? That's kind of what started the whole thing with Netflix, and then all these companies that insist on having their own little brand of various things. And it's like, might as well just buy cable again.
HBO Max and Paramount Plus and Disney Plus and Hulu and Peacock and
there's, and then you got all the other, like the offshoots, right? You got like Pluto TV and Sling TV and
well, that's the one thing I can say about Pluto TV.
Okay.
Is you don't pay for Pluto.
Okay. All right.
Pluto's free. If you just want to watch something, Pluto's free.
Okay. And here's the thing, if it's free, I expect ads.
Same with like Roku TV.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to pay a monthly subscription for that.
Yeah.
You're going to see some ads.
Right.
And it may not be, you're not going to get the latest and greatest shows.
Right.
But if you just want to watch something, if you just want to be entertained,
mm-hmm.
you're going to find something that'll probably entertain you.
Yeah. It's there, and
let's be realistic. A lot of the times, the viewer's just staring at the screen anyway.
Right.
You're not really engaged.
Yeah, you're not really watching.
That's like it's like my family. We'll just turn it on for background noise. And I get it. I like background noise.
Right.
But I'm not going to pay
for background noise.
$30 a month for background noise.
Right. Yeah, there are certain programs that like the wife will watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's seen them like dozens and dozens of times. So she puts them on and then she works, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's got that background on. Okay, fine. But like you said, like Hulu, I'm not paying $90 a month or whatever it is now, because I canceled that a long time ago.
Right.
for background noise.
Mhm.
Like, but if something's free, like I think what's the other one? Tubi, I think. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But if it's free, I expect ads.
Mhm.
I get it. I understand, but why the hell am I paying X amount to still have to be forced to watch ads? I can
Mhm.
watch this on YouTube for free.
Well, ads are everywhere. I mean, look at Facebook.
Oh God.
You can't watch a 45-second video without an ad in the middle.
Yeah.
In the middle.
Yep.
Of a 45-second
45-second video. Yep. Yeah, it's
how did we get here?
That's the beauty of organic conversation, in my opinion, is
It's a train wreck.
Yeah. I mean, kind of.
I mean, it started with a whole question about what are you most proud of as a charity, and now we're talking about Amazon subscriptions.
It's the show for ADD, man. I mean,
I guess.
Yeah. So we're gonna start doing this every week.
Well, that's the rumor.
That's the plan. That's the plan. I assume there will be times when we're unable to for whatever reason. But oh God, yeah, the wife says TikTok has ads too now. So
I don't even want to talk about TikTok. Okay, TikTok. In my world, TikTok does not exist.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Now I've seen TikTok videos. Some of them are amusing.
Yeah, I've seen some that are really good.
Yeah,
I've seen some that are absolutely atrocious.
But yeah, we'll get into TikTok another day.
Yeah. Let's save that for.
That's a whole topic right there.
It is.
That's an entire topic.
Different. That's an entirely different rant.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We can sum up TikTok in one word: don't. Just
right.
don't.
Just don't. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to kind of have like topics chosen, or if just kind of free form it. My goal eventually is to kind of have like an ongoing conversation with viewer involvement, and we can kind of get a little bit of a back and forth, because I do feel like our interests and area of expertise.
Because I feel like we've touched on a lot. We've touched on a lot of things that I would like to expound on.
Yeah.
Just like the veterans charities and motorcycle culture.
Right.
I mean, there's a whole slew of things that I'm about, that I'm interested in.
Right.
And I know that there's a lot of overlap with you and me in those interests. And I feel like some of that needs to be not necessarily clarified, but expounded upon.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like moving forward, we can kind of pick this topic for, next week.
Just as a prime example, I talked about 3% club.
Right.
And I said, there's misconceptions about 3%. And that's kind of where it kind of fell.
Right.
And I'd like to go more into that.
So why don't we plan on next week? We'll talk about that. We'll talk
about the 3%.
3%, what that means for you versus what they say it is.
Well, and that's where it gets real slippery slope.
Right.
Because the 3% movement, it's a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's different things to different people.
Right.
I can tell you what it means to me. I can tell you because I've done research on where it comes from.
Yeah.
I've gotten into debates with people who are like, 3%, it's an arbitrary number. It's not even accurate. It's like, hold on.
Yeah.
You're not putting it into context.
Right. And I think that's a good place I think it's a good discussion to get into and kind of lead from there, because there are a lot of misconceptions out there. There are a lot of, and there's a lot of false reporting as well, and a lot of sensationalism. There's false reporting, there's sensationalism, and there's also people that fly that flag that don't know what it means,
that have their own views of what that's about.
Yeah, that's a better description. They have their own views
Mm-hmm.
or interpretation
But
of what that means.
and I can't speak to that because I don't know every 3% organization. I don't know what the 3% movement means to every single person.
Exactly.
What I can tell you is what it means to me and mine.
Right.
And mostly to me.
Right.
And get some insight to where that 3 comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of put to bed this whole debate of, well, it's not really 3%. Well, it is 3%. It's not 3%.
Right.
There's a lot of nuances to that.
There are.
And people take things they get so hung up in the minutia of so many things, not just but so many things, that you've lost sight of the spirit of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The 3%, the Roman numeral 3, that is just it's a symbol. Okay. It's a symbol, that represents what you believe in.
Yep.
Regardless of how you interpret it, that's all it is. It's symbology.
Precisely.
And it's not, because it didn't come to an exact 3%. There's, there was some rounding, and there's some context, and there's all So,
but we'll get into it.
We'll get into all that.
And I think that's a good place to start, and then we'll kind of
before we
other stuff,
derail this train of thought any further.
Right.
Yeah.
But hey, thanks for being here. I think this was fun.
It was a good time. I sure like rambling about everything.
Yeah, which is that to me. I mean, that's the entertainment value to it. But we will definitely try to be on time next time. I had some little graphical glitch issues, but 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock's great.
Wednesdays. Yeah. 8 o'clock Central for those not from
because in St. Joe County that would be 9 o'clock. You're on Eastern time.
Which get into the whole various
the time zones
for the state based on an arbitrary boundary. But, whatever. All right. Hey, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.